Hey there, and welcome to episode number, I think it will be 16 from season 2 of the World of Presentations podcast brought to you by Asset 356 Labs. My name is Boris. Obviously, I'm always the host for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm always the host of this one. And today, together with me is somebody who is doing a lot of things in the presentation space, who is going to be one of our speakers at Present to Succeed, and who is also going to deliver the data visualization masterclass at the conference at Present to Succeed. Nolan, welcome. Finally.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Let us know, let's get to a quick introduction, because you are doing so many things in that industry. Mm-hmm. How can we kind of wrap those things up in a few sentences? What would you say?
You want my elevator pitch on what I do? How do I?
Maybe. Why not?
Well, we always say that we help people communicate more effectively, more visually with fewer words. There you go. I don't even know my elevator pitch. So where I run Nolan Haims Creative. That's the principal of that. We're a small boutique visual communications agency. We're based in New Jersey, about 30 minutes outside of Manhattan. And I worked in the creative agency world and the PR industry for a long time, but I've been on my own for about 7 or 8 years. And we do a lot. Our bread and butter is going to be presentation. That's what we're mostly known for. Like you, I'm a PowerPoint MVP. I've been one for about seven or so years.
That's awesome.
So we obviously do a lot in PowerPoint, but we also do a lot in just general visual communication, data, data reporting. We do a lot in InDesign, heavy data reports. I'm doing one right now for the U.S. military hospital system. So again, anytime people need to communicate more visually, as I said, with fewer words, that's where we come in. And so, I know we're going to talk about data visualization. I come from the presentation world. I don't come from the statistics or data analysis world that you see a lot of the data visualization people come from. I lasted 1 day in accounting. I have a degree in theater, so I'm not I'm not a math numbers guy, but I'm a visual guy. And so we do tend to do a lot of data visualization from a more presentational standpoint, rather from an analytical or, gee whiz, look how cool I can animate this whatever thing. Not to put that down, but so that's how we sort of approach data visualization. So we do that. We do a lot of training. Used to be and do a lot of in-person training. That's all gone now, but now we're doing a lot online. Tons of webinars for all sorts of people and online conferences. So that's my long elevator pitch. It was a very long build.
And you're also a Mac lover. You forgot to say that.
I'm also a what?
Mac lover, aren't you?
Oh, Mac. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I'm staring my big, I don't know if you just watched it. I just watched the new
I did.
Apple launch. We're Mac based. I also work on a PC, but generally. Yeah.
Are you buying something from the new launch?
I have been hanging on to my MacBook Air from like 5 years ago. That is the best laptop I've ever had.
Really? Okay.
And it's not slowing down. It's not my primary computer. My iMac is, which I buy every 3 years, but no, that MacBook Air I love, and it's got ports. It's got MagSafe. So I eventually, yes, when it dies, I will get a new one, but I'm not rushing out.
Yeah. I'm by the way, considering the Mac Mini for so long. Yeah, for so long, because I don't use it for like intensive graphics or anything like this. But then I look at it, it was like the Surface Studio 2, not 3, Studio 2, that was not upgraded or like kind of changed in the last few years. And I'm like, maybe when it changes, when they fix it, when they upgrade it a bit, maybe. And now when I saw it like an hour ago, I was like, maybe.
Well, now they're saying you can like launch rockets into space with it. But we'll see.
Sure. Sure. So let's talk presentations now. You're also involved in the presentation guild quite heavily, I would say. Because you're very involved in the guild, and the people who are listening to this, unfortunately, I would say it this way, unfortunately, doesn't know anything about the guild. What is the guild?
Join the guild.
Join the guild. Okay. What is the guild?
So the Presentation Guild, I think it's about 3 years, 4 years at this point. So I mean, I do have an admission. Yes, I'm involved with it, but I'm
Yes.
not. I've been a member from day one. I'm a founding member, but I am not on the executive board. I have
Yeah.
managed to escape those responsibilities. But I do regular webinars for them. Julie Turberg
Yeah.
and I host a monthly. I think it's monthly a
Monthly, I
monthly
think, yeah.
a webinar called Inspired by Design, and we trade off hosting and presenting. I generally present on data visualization, some sort of design aspect of it, and she presents on more graphic design aspects of presentation. So yeah, we do that. Tomorrow I'm doing a special webinar on creating or running a presentation business. That's going to be a panel with Bethany Ock from Slide Rabbit, Nancy Duarte, obviously from Duarte, and Julie and a few other people. So yeah, so we do. I host webinars for them. I give webinars. I'm on panels. Yeah, if you work in the presentation world, even tangentially, you should be a member. I mean, it's the only thing like it around, and it's a phenomenal organization.
Yeah, I would say that even if you don't work in the presentation space, but you're involved in presentations, or your life depends sometimes, not every day, but sometimes on presentations, I think that the guild, just because of those webinars, is so much worth $100 per year or something like this.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and all the webinars are on demand, so we have a whole catalog that we've been creating for the last few years.
Yeah. Exactly. So you said that you are delivering a lot of webinars. Now the corporate trainings the in-person trainings are gone. What are you noticing in terms of the differences between the in-person and the online delivery? Because I know that you're presenting a lot on that topic also. Like, what are your top 3-5s? Most different things that are happening in that world.
Well, the big thing is, I mean, I think initially we had all the at least from my clients, at least from sort of the corporate clients that would hire me, there was a real pullback and just like, hey, hold off. Like we're not transferring our training yet. We're not doing anything. Like we don't even know if we're going to be around in a few months. So like the budgets were like sort of frozen. And then slowly we started getting back in. Slowly we started getting back in with some special webinars. Like, you know, I have a webinar now that I created back in March or April on how to present remotely, because that's what people are doing. So a lot of them were interested in that, but it was sort of a one-off. Now they're starting to roll back in and saying, okay, whether our people are remote or in person or whatever, we need to bring our training back. So what do we do with the day-long or the half-day training that we used to use Nolan for? Well, you can't do that. The biggest problem is the time. Like they're like, well, what can we do in an hour? It's like, well, I used to give you a day-long training. We can do something in an hour, but it's not going to be the same. All right, well, how about 2 hours? Or then it becomes negotiating. The sweet spot that I like now is 4 hours of training in 2 sessions, 2 and 2. I think 2 hours is kind of the max that people can sit for in the corporate, world where people are, have jobs to do. So we're pushing that. We're still doing like 1 hour, I mean, next week I'm doing a 1 hour training on data visualization, which I used to do in 4 or 5 hours. So for the same client. So it's like, well, we're going to go through it quickly. We're going to, there's going to be a big workbook and we're going to cover the big points and we'll try to give you something. But yeah, the time is the biggest thing. And the other thing, which is not a surprise, is just, it's the engagement. It's not, you can't, if you're presenting to 25, 30 people, you can't have everybody's cameras up. You can't get that feedback. And this is something we address in our how to present remotely, training. You do your best. You're going to do polls. You're going to do Q&A. You're going to try to have people send you something in advance to do a makeover, but it's tough because you can't control their engagement.
Yeah. Many people think that, I don't know whether or not you're seeing something like this, but many people, when this COVID thing happened, said, wait a minute, this is now easier for me to present because I'm at home. But then it turned out that it's not that easy, or at least if you want to do it well, it's not as easy.
Yeah, and there are people, competitors of mine, colleagues of mine who have actually been doing remote training, remote data trainings and things like that for years. And
Okay.
I'm sure they're doing it a lot better, you know, than I have. I mean, it's a real skill to sort of build up.
Oh yeah.
But you know, this goes back years when I was doing in-person trainings, and then certain clients would say, well, Nolan, we want to do it all on demand online. And
Yeah.
I, you know, generally would say, I'm not really interested in that, because what are you going to do? You're going to buy out. I'm going to record it once. You want me to do all this work to put it together. You're going to buy me out for the cost of 1 or 2 live sessions, and then I don't get anything. But then, and then some of those clients would kind of crawl back and say, oh, well, okay, let's do it in person, because there's as great as LinkedIn Learning is, as great as, you know, other on-demand stuff, there's no substitute for being in person.
Oh yeah, that is
just really not.
Okay, so the people that are like, if you have to but share some things, or share a few of the most important differences and things that people need to change in order to deliver a presentation online successfully, what are the top 3 things that you find that people are still not doing, that are maybe, let's call them easy fixes, if you wish?
Well, the first thing I'll say is slides actually become more important. So I have a question that I ask of every time I do my presenting remotely thing, presentation.
Yep.
The question is, are you more engaged or less engaged with remote presentations? So basically, are you more engaged online with slides, or were you more engaged in person? And on average, it's about 80 to 90% of people are more engaged with the slides when it's remote. So what that means is that's what's right in front of their face. So you really have to spend more time on your slides. Even though your slides are your backup dancers, as I always say, you have to spend more time. So with that, you got to spend, you know, just more time designing, but you've got to pace. The biggest thing for me is pacing, right? Yep. So you can't, while you're in person, you can put a slide up for 5-10 minutes if you want, because you're still the star. Online, I say now, I was never a slide count type person. I was always slide number agnostic. But now I'm saying 1 minute per slide-ish. So, you know, you got to keep things moving. So even if you're on a slide for, you know, let's say a minute, 2 minutes or something, you need to animate parts of that slide in. You need to keep things moving for people. Now you can't move too fast. Like I've seen people like have 100 slides for 30 minutes, and then they're just like zooming by, and like somebody looks away and the lag, and like, oh, it's gone. So I think just really understanding that pacing, that's the biggest thing. The next thing is your text has to be even bigger, and you have to use even less of it, because
surprise,
it's hard.
Surprise.
Like, you and I probably, what size is your sort of work monitor, your work computer?
27 inch.
4K. Right. Same with mine. Is it an iMac?
Yeah. No.
No, it's different. Okay. I actually have 2 27 inches right next to each other. But most people have these small laptops, right? Most people in the corporate world, non-designers, or they might even be on an iPad. And I don't know what it is, but laptops have been getting smaller, not bigger, right? Phones have been getting bigger, laptops have been getting smaller. So that's the thing. And then, so if you have like a Zoom area, and you know, Zoom window, and you've got the camera, you've got like 4 people, and then you share a screen, that screen is like 6 inches or 7 inches. Like you cannot have 12 or 14 point type. Like so you've got to spread that out. You've got to use less type, blah, blah, blah. So that's the other thing. Like you really can't, you know, put so much text on a screen. So that would be, so pacing, less text,
more slides.
Yeah. And
let's go one more.
One more. I would say you've got to ramp up your technical skills, meaning you've got to spend a little money in a webcam. You've got to spend money on a mic. You've got to learn how to use Teams. I know if you haven't used it a lot, and they keep changing it, and there's always something different and something not working.
They're adding breakout.
Exactly.
They're adding breakouts. Finally,
did they launch that? I can't.
Launching it right now as we speak.
Okay, as we speak. So so you've got to really become a master of that technical. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, who's a professor at MIT. And she, even though she is a brilliant astrophysicist, like literally that's what she does. She's not like a computer technical, like, you know, kind of person. And yet she, like, and her husband, she was saying, like, he because she presents all the time now. She's like, he set this whole thing up for me. He's my stage manager where I can switch like from multiple screens, like to have the slides behind me and then up and me. And I was like so amazed, but that just, and she's like, I don't know exactly how it all works, but he helps me. I was like, that's what you have to do. Like you really, because her job is presenting like on a daily basis. So for, she just was on PBS, on TV the other day, like doing that. And it's like, you've got to ramp that up, and you've just got to learn to be technical and use everything at your disposal.
Yeah, I also add, by the way, I would add one more thing that people get surprised that it exists. I always say that, hey, because of Microsoft Teams and Zoom and WebEx, I believe those three are the top kind of tools right now. You have to also keep up with what they are doing and what they are changing, right? Because it is happening on a weekly basis. And some of those platforms have a release notes, meaning that if you type in like Microsoft Teams release notes, it will get you to a link and you can subscribe to the emails, etc. But I would also say, hey, why don't you use something like visualpink.com and just make your life easy? Because
what's VisualPink?
So VisualPink is a really cool service. First of all, it's free. Second of all, and it is a website which creates screenshots of your website, right? Of a website that you say. So if you type in a link, right? Let's say the release notes of Zoom, right? And you type it in VisualPink, it creates a picture snapshot of the current state of the web page.
Okay.
And then you tell it, hey, create me a screenshot of that page again, let's say after a week, and find for me if there are any differences, right? And if there are any differences, obviously they publish something new, right? But you don't have to do that, and they send you over email. They send you the difference. So this way you can monitor. Yeah, this way I monitor absolutely every single tool on the planet and how it changes without actually doing anything. So it is super cool too. When you add a lot of sites and when you go with a lot of checks, meaning like you just add 50 websites there and you check them, let's say weekly, at some point it will become paid, but the paid version is $3 per month.
Okay. And it's called VisualPink?
Pink, yeah.
P-I-N-K.
P-I-N-G.
Oh,
Ping.
VisualPing. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah.
So it's a really cool website.
Yeah, one thing I mean, it is hard to keep up, although I think you might be giving WebEx a little too much credit, and I'm not sure they're updating features every week.
They are, by the way.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Not my favorite site, but
same. Same.
But yeah, Teams is, Zoom putting things out so fast, Zoom is. But I always tell people, go to the advanced preferences, especially in Zoom, because in Zoom you've got like your normal preferences. But if you usually at the bottom will say advanced, in which you have to go to the website, and there you will see hundreds of options, things like, whiteboarding, breakout rooms, like, I didn't know. And usually these are just part of your account. They're just not enabled. You don't have to pay extra for them. So I always tell people, spend 10 or 15 minutes going through your advanced preferences and see I have background noise cancellation. I didn't realize I could do this. I can do that. Like, you really you gotta be a master of the software you're using.
Yeah. And by the way, there is one more. Have you been asked to present or to join Blue Jeans?
Blue Jeans. So yes, I did one. I think I've done one webinar on Blue Jeans.
Okay. It's awful.
It didn't go very well.
Yeah, it was.
But I've heard good things about it. And it was the first time that I had like my camera stopped working and my audio stopped working, and it just for no reason. Yeah. And fortunately we had a backup, and I had a backup mic, and I had to, but it was a little embarrassing, but
yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Some type of things like this happen. Yeah, by the way, is another lesson here that you always have to have a backup, right?
Yes.
That is...
I always have a backup laptop, usually signed in as just a guest to see what everyone else is seeing. So for example, sometimes your screen will freeze, and that even happens in Zoom or Teams, and you don't know it until you sort of glance over and see what's happening. And then every once in a while, if your own computer just something explodes, you can just ask the host or whatever, just say, oh, make the other one the presenter, and you just go over to that one.
Yeah.
So we had to do that.
Absolutely. Very, very useful, I think. Yeah, very
Have
useful.
a backup.
Always. Especially, not always, for the important presentations, I would say. Right?
Yeah. And if you have a host, like if somebody's hosting you, send them a copy of the presentation just so they have it on their computer. Because if for whatever reason your screen sharing just stops working, but theirs is working, just
By
say,
the way,
hey.
that is strange that you say it. I see that issue going on so often nowadays. Like, that is super strange. Why would that happen? Including in tools like Zoom. Like, even in the last week or so, I have seen it twice. Like, super strange stuff.
Who knows? It could be bandwidth issues. Could just be little.
I got
glitches.
another issue with Zoom. So like last week we were delivering a training, and in the middle of the training everything is going well, and out of the blue, everybody on the Zoom call, and I mean everybody on the Zoom call, starts hearing in their headphones just a brutal sound. Very, very, like, it was so brutal. Everyone went whoop and removed their headphones because it was that brutal. And it continued. I thought that, wait a minute, somebody hacked the room or whatever. And I immediately started looking at participants, whatever. And 15 or 20 seconds later, it disappeared. I was like, wow.
Who knows?
That's first time ever. Like, that was brutal. Anyhow, before we move on to some of the things about the conference that you're probably going to share, you're also one of the hosts of a podcast that is, I would say, quite popular in this industry. So let us know about the podcast and what's happening there.
So it's the Presentation Podcast. This is our 5th year. So we've been around for a while, and I'm a co-host with Sandy Johnson and Troy Collar. And the three of us, like you, are PowerPoint MVPs. And when we first started, we thought we'd do it for a couple years, if that. And so we're in our 5th year, and we don't seem to have a lack of material to talk about. So it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing it. So twice monthly, we put that out, and we do tech tips. We keep everybody up to date on the latest releases. I'd say we're fairly Microsoft focused for a number of reasons, but we've had people on to talk about Prezi and Google Slides and Keynote, and we try to talk. We really approach it from a design perspective for the most part. We're all designers, presentation designers. But it's sort of what's happening in the presentation world. And the Presentation Podcast, I think, where Troy every month sends us out the rankings from around the world, and I think we were like in the arts and design category, which is a fairly big design.
Big category, by the way.
I think we were like number 50 in the United Arab Emirates last month. So it was very exciting. I have no idea what that means at all.
I was listening to one of the podcasts like a month or two ago, and I was like really laughing out loud at the office, because I was like entering the office and Troy is saying on the podcast, and we are very listened in Bulgaria, which is kind of strange. And then somebody said, maybe it's Boris. And I was like, of course it's me. I was like, of course, here in the office, I'm like, of course it's me, Troy. But he was not able to hear it. Anyhow. So the Presentation Podcast. Yeah, there are like 100 and what? Like,
how many episodes 20? Are we up to? We're up to about 115, 120, something like that.
120. Yeah. So. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Definitely recommending that one.
Yeah,
so talking about like all of those presentation type of things, the online, all of the changes that happened there, you're going to deliver, let's start with a small one. You're going to deliver a session on accessibility, on designing accessible slides, right?
Inclusive presentations.
Inclusive
presentations. A little different from accessibility, which is a good thing to point out. So this is a session I'm really excited about. I've presented on this topic a few times before, and for some of my corporate clients who their diversity and inclusion departments like go crazy over this, because this is just not a topic, as far as I'm aware, anybody else is presenting on. So the long and short of it is, I've been designing presentations for decades. And I noticed, in the past number of years that my audiences, I mean, obviously this has been going on for years, but my audiences have been changing. But in lots of different ways. I don't just mean racially or ethnically or religiously or whatever. I mean, internationally, they're obviously, but in all sorts of ways. Things like some of them are getting younger, and their attention spans are going down, and they're getting older simultaneously, and so they can't see from the back of the room, and so all these sorts of things. Plus, we're getting just more diverse as a society. Period. And yet we're so many of us are still sort of presenting content and things in the way we used to. We're using the same old tired stock photography, for example. We're not taking advantage of a lot of these amazing features that PowerPoint and other programs give us to be accessible. Accessibility, I think, is a subset of inclusivity. So accessibility, 508 accessibility, or creating presentations that can be digested by people with disabilities, for example, vision disabilities or hearing deficiencies. That's really important. But for me, it goes even further than that. It's things like making your presentation more socially shareable. Why? Because you've got these young kids, I call them, these young 20-somethings looking at your presentation. They're live tweeting. They want, that's the way they live. They want to share things socially. So why not make your presentation easily shareable by them? And so we do that. Like when we do that, we live tweet the presentation with hashtags that they can just retweet and send out. And the slides are designed in such a way that they're more socially shareable. And then it's true. And then we talk about, I mean, I can't live tweet, but I've seen other people do it for my presentations. I'm like, how are you doing? They're like taking a photo of the screen and typing out. I was like, are you listening to me?
You cannot stop that.
No. And we talk a lot about imagery, stock imagery, and how to choose and find more inclusive imagery, more diverse imagery, how to choose more diverse iconography. Like that's a thing. Like if you the Noun project, which I know a few years ago did a diversity project initiative to create more diverse iconography, because, for example, up to that point, if you had typed in president, you would get icons of men wearing suits.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And even then, we have in the US have not had a female president yet, but there are female presidents around the world. So it's just one of those blind spots to that's one of the examples that I use. And so they created a whole set and continue to create iconography that's just more inclusive.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So it's just a really exciting session that I'm happy to be presenting.
Yeah. And let's not talk about the president type of things in the US. That is, I think. Anyhow, so that being said, for the inclusive type of presentations and making a presentation inclusive, which is even to me now, which I thought is going to be only on accessibility. Now, when you say this, I'm like even happier that we did this one and not some of the other options that we were discussing, because that one for sure is not being covered, and yet is super important.
Yeah, and we'll touch upon accessibility. I'm not going to go too heavy into it because it can get fairly technical, and there's a lot to it with alt text and things like that. People should know where it is. By and large, though, I mean, when people say, "Oh, I want my presentation to be accessible," that's really only comes into play if you're actually sending the PowerPoint file or Google Slides or whatever to somebody for them to digest. If you're just presenting over Zoom and all they see is your screen, and you're not, I mean, you can always, and you should, give people the option to download your presentation. Like whenever I do a webinar, I send out a little registration questionnaire, and it says, and this is part of it, do you need any special accommodations? Do you need the camera to stay on? Do you need the presentation in advance? Do you need subtitles? So true accessibility, it's a big, the whole Venn diagrams of inclusivity and accessibility and where you act. Like if you're just presenting through Zoom, you don't need alt text. If you're sending that file out, then
that's another story. Yeah. And then we have the big one, which is the 4 our workshop on data visualization.
Yes, I don't drink coffee, but I might start before
Yeah,
to
I'll
get through it.
help you
No.
out. I will be probably your moderator for that one. So I'll help you out and drink coffee
Okay.
together with you and help you out during those 4 hours, which will have to take breaks, obviously.
Of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
of course, on every hour or something, up to you. But like, give us behind the scenes what's happening, because by the way, truth being told, the tickets for your workshop are already disappearing. So
All right. Good.
yeah, and we even haven't started, like, in the moment of recording this, we even haven't started marketing the event, marketing the workshop. Is just a few communication type of things that we did. So anyhow, like, bring us behind the scenes. What should people expect there? What are we
So
looking at?
I'm excited to do it because I have, we were just saying like 4 hours at a clip these days is really difficult.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do it. Now, again, these are people who are very motivated
Yeah.
to maintain their focus, and I'm going to do my best to keep them engaged. But yeah, generally our sort of base data visualization training is 4 hours. It's a half
Okay.
day training, so we're going to be covering a lot of it. I think the challenge for me is how to keep it, how to make it more interactive. Because
Okay.
it's a lot of information we throw at people, and there's a workbook and everything, and we do some exercises, but I'm really going to look to make it more interactive. So there's a lot to it. I'll sort of cover the
Yeah.
content. We give what I call is a design education in a box. We do this in like 10 or 15 minutes.
Sounds interesting.
We get, because we're, in general, I'm presenting to non-designers, and I know we're going to
Yeah.
have designers there, but even
Yeah.
so, I always like to tell people how graphic design actually affects and how it relates to data visualization. So we talk a
Yeah.
little bit about color and eye gaze and focus, and how to really what I call manipulate your audience for good,
Yeah.
basically control how they're reading your data visualization. So we go a little into that. We go into a little bit into color. Um, and just to sort of give people the grounding of like, this is not coming out of nowhere. We're using graphic design principles, because
Yeah.
that's how I approach it. And then we spend a lot of time on what I call the 1 second chart.
That
And
one was so, like, it even sounds sexy, like the 1 second chart. When I saw it in your description, I was like, that sounds fancy. That's
yeah,
really sounds
well,
fancy. There was
I
more.
I don't want to pop the balloon, but what the 1 second chart does not mean, it
Okay.
takes the audience, or it doesn't take the creator 1 second to make the chart. That would
Okay,
be
that
awesome.
is very
That would be
important. That
awesome,
would be,
right?
yeah.
I'm still working on that, but it takes your audience as close to 1 second to read and understand that
Okay.
chart.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to create glanceable charts. And these are charts, I'm approaching this all from a presentation point of view, not from
Yeah.
a data journalism,
Yeah.
website, print review, because the rage all these days, it's actually going in the opposite direction of glanceability. It's getting into like slicing and dicing, and how much time can we spend with this chart to really, examine the data. That's not
No.
what we're talking about in presentation. If you put a chart up on a slide, the audience needs to understand what that chart means as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And so through design, we go through 10 steps, 10 different techniques of how to design your charts so that they can be read not in 10 seconds or 5 seconds, but in
Yeah.
a second or half a second.
Yeah.
Or, if you've got a current slide that has a legend and bad use of color and blah, 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 and it takes 12 seconds to read and understand, if we can get that down to 4 seconds, like, that's the goal. So
Okay. Yeah.
we spend a lot of time on really teaching people how to look at any chart and say, I'm going to change that, and that, and boom, now my chart can be read in an instant.
Yeah.
And then we go into some common pitfalls and mistakes that people make, y-axis manipulation and, use of pie charts. We give you lots of options, different alternatives to pie charts. And we also talk about some really interesting, unique, different types of charts beyond bar charts, beyond line charts, that I think are highly visual and really work well in presentation. So we teach people how to create proportional shapes, how to create bullet graphs, how to create tree maps and things like that. Things that I think work really well in presentation. And then we do, we're going to try to do some exercises and things like that. So it'll be a packed 4 hours, I guarantee.
Yeah, for sure. And we have like 15 slots only, which means that when we have 15 people, we definitely have to, like, I will be very, very focused in helping and making sure that not everyone is being heard, because I believe that there will be questions, there will be discussions, there will be interactions, and these need to be moderated. So we make sure that, hey, you are at peace and you are very focused on what needs to happen, and everything else is being taken care of so that people can enjoy it to the
fullest. With 15 people, I mean, that's not 50 or 100 people. So that's, I'm really hoping to get to know everybody and get all those questions answered. And I always tell like, whenever I do a webinar, whenever I'm sort of selling it to a client, I'm saying, I'll say, it's an hour webinar, we'll go from 1 to 2 p.m., but I'm going to stay on in what I call office hours. Like, I'm not going anywhere at the end, because the last thing I want is for a webinar to end and people still have questions. So, I'm not going to stay on for 3 hours, but, I was like, I'm going to stay on because I want people's questions answered. That's so frustrating for me to like be in a webinar and really like, I've asked my question in Q&A, but they're not getting to it. And I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah. So. We'll position your webinar to be in the evening part of the day in regards to here in Europe, which means that after yours, there will be no other, which means that, let's take your... Okay. We can stay up until late, even though on the next day there is a conference to run. But
I think we should be able to cover things in 4 hours. So, that means means attendees in Europe at least will be maybe a little tired. I know that I'll be fresh. It'll be morning for me, but it won't be like 4 a.m. morning.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that being said, like you mentioned you yourself, you are a PowerPoint MVP. Any other tool that, like, any other tool that kind of makes an impression on you that you are like, that's interesting, or anything else that you would recommend people at least explore or know about, be that a presentation software or anything else that complements, right, the building, the creation of a cool slide deck? Anything else?
Resources?
There are a lot, I think,
there's a ton out there. I would, what am I, well, I mean, I'm sure other people are going to tout it, but the thing that's changed my life in the last year or so is a plugin called Bright Slide, which is from Bright Carbon.
Yep.
They're our colleagues. They're a presentation design firm, but they've released a free suite of tools called Bright Slide. Now, they released it for the PC maybe a year or more ago. It has not been on the Mac, but it is now, as of like a week ago, in beta on the Mac. So you can go to their website, you can go to brightcarbon.com, navigate to Bright Slide, or you can just, it's all one word, Bright Slide, Mac, Google that. So now that's about 95% of what you can do on PC. There are 1 or 2 features that don't quite work because of Mac, but that has changed my life. It's a suite of tools that installs as a new tab that just give you tools to, like, efficiency tools. Just the other day, I was using one of the tools to make I had like a 50 slide deck, and I wanted to, in 20% of the slides, there was a text box that was always in the same spot, like at the same size, but it was too big. And I was like, I just want to make it a little smaller. So I made one smaller. I used one of the tools to basically pick up the position of it and run through the whole deck and say, go, 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 go. And then it made them smaller on all the slides. It took me 30 seconds, whereas without this tool, it would have taken me 15 minutes probably. So
that I will definitely make sure that we link this up, because Bright Carbon, by the way, are also going to present at the event. Plus, I'm trying to reach out to one of the other guys because Richard and Ingrid will present together, which is very interesting. So the director of Bright Carbon and one of their senior designers will talk about PowerPoint. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I give you another related add-in, I guess, that
of course,
that has changed my life for people? So one of the big things always when you're presenting is timing. People have 30 minutes to present, and more often than not, they prepare like 50 minutes of content, right? And now when we're on, it's bad enough when you're in the room and people are like, next slide. Oh, let me skip through this. Let me go to that.
And
people can't keep up. Now online, like slides are like zooming by and it's too much. So since I present constantly and I'm constantly slicing and dicing my material, and it's like, oh, I have 45 minutes to talk. Oh, now I have an hour. Now I have 2 hours. Like, how do I worked with, so the developer of Bright Slide is again, one of our colleagues, Jamie Garak. And I mentioned this problem to him. I said, I want all my slides to be tagged with a timing, so that if I if I gather like these 40 slides to do a talk or something, I want to know instantly these slides are that's 45 minutes of material. And then if I have 30, I need to like be able to delete some and see, oh, now you're down to 30 without, because I had like a spreadsheet and I would like, it was just too complicated. So he developed like very quickly this add-in. It's called Talk Time. It's free. It's only for the PC. But if you Google Talk Time PowerPoint add-in, you'll find it on Jamie's personal site, where you can download it from. And this, I don't know how I could do my job without this tool right now. It allows you to tag every slide, and it lives with the slide, how long that slide is, and you can record. So you could like do a presentation, have it record, and it automatically puts those timings in.
Yeah.
So now, let's say you have 500 slides that you normally present. Each one has a timing. You need to create a new deck. You take these 30 slides, put it into a new deck, and look at the timing. Oh, this is 30 seconds or this is 31 minutes and 24 seconds. So it is an unsung tool that I love and adore. So if you have difficulty with timing,
keeping up,
having too much, needing to know, like, because sometimes it's the amount of like, oh, I just need to take 2 minutes out. Well, which is, no, this slide is 2 minutes. Oh, delete. Oh, I'm done. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So, it's called Talk Time, all one word. Just Google Talk Time PowerPoint. You'll find it.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of people have this problem with the timing in general, and especially startups. That is, with the guys that we work with. Like, I will never forget when somebody told us, hey, we need to develop this presentation and we have 5 minutes to present it in Germany. However, we have a 10-minute version, and everything is important. Like, when I hear that, I'm like, I know that everything is important, but there are rules that you need to follow. So let's try and follow the rules and see how we can optimize without losing your message, right? And we did that, and then 2 days afterwards, like after we did it, they call us like in an emergency, and it's now 3 minutes. It's impossible. And I'm like, relax. From the 10 to the 5, then to the 3, they were so shocked because they were like not that experienced in speaking. And for them, this is just so much stress because they're also looking for investment. So these guys in Germany were constantly changing the rules for some reason, which is not typical for you Germans. But anyhow, yeah. So the 2 plugins, anything else?
I mean, tons. I mean, I guess I would just really encourage people to explore the things that are not PowerPoint. Meaning, and I don't mean like Prezi or Google. I don't mean like other software, but I mean other things that complement. So Noun Project, stock photography. If you go to my website, presentyourstory.com, there's a goodies page. And I have a 1-page stock resources list that I keep updated. It's all hyperlinked, and it's just hundreds of stock sites and icon sites and where to get fonts and all sorts of things. So like, if you're just like in PowerPoint and not even looking up to see, and by the way, a lot of these other third-party things actually can incorporate into PowerPoint through add-ins like that you can get from within PowerPoint. Like, you can connect Adobe Stock, you can connect Adobe Creative Cloud, which is amazing. Like, if you work in Adobe Creative Cloud, you can grab all that stuff from within PowerPoint. So I would just encourage people to really look to those other tools as much as can be done within PowerPoint these days. Look to those other resources: stock, fonts, icons, other add-ins, that are not from Microsoft. Just open up. This comes back to what we were talking about, like really being a master of your tool. Like, if you are presenting in Zoom day in, day out, you have to, it is incumbent upon you to know Zoom inside and out.
It's not a bad idea.
If you are using PowerPoint day in and day out, there is no excuse for you to be an intermediate user of PowerPoint. Like, that's like if you're a race car driver and you're like, yeah, I'm a pretty good driver. No, you need to be the best driver. You need to know everything about that car. And so you've got to educate yourself. You've got to
Imagine a
like,
doctor, right? Imagine a
exactly,
doctor
right.
saying, yeah,
It's like I'm a surgeon.
no, I wonder.
I kind of know something about the human body. No, you need to know everything about the body. So yeah, if you present as your livelihood, and so many people do, like you gotta like educate yourself. You gotta like get some training. You gotta come to the conference, right?
Yeah, you have to like, and the cool part is that there are a lot of people that don't think that there are resources out there for this, and yet it is like packed with resources. Like there are a lot. It could be better, of course.
It could be better. And look, it's
Yeah.
not like I don't know, maybe not like Excel. Like, I mean, there's a ton more Excel training that you can find, but that's out there. There's the Presentation Guild, there's podcasts, there's conferences, there's LinkedIn Learning trainings, there's books. Like, go to Amazon, type in presentation, type in PowerPoint. Like, there is stuff to educate yourself on.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is true. Have you heard about this new tool that's on the market now since like 2 weeks, pitch.com? Have you noticed that one?
I've seen it. I have not taken the time to go examine it. What? Tell me about it. It's another PowerPoint killer, right?
Yes. So it's another PowerPoint killer. Everyone tries to position themselves as a PowerPoint killer. They are very, very, like, they have some serious funding behind the scenes. The guy that runs it actually sold his previous company, which was Wunderlist, the to-do app, to Microsoft and worked for Microsoft. So his whole team worked for Microsoft and now left and does a PowerPoint killer, which is also very interesting. But at least what they're doing right is they're doing, every single time when you start from scratch, it's a different story, right? Mm-hmm. And they definitely have an eye for design and user experience.
That's good.
I mean, you have to give it to them. You have to see the website. You have to see their social media. You have to see the way they position and market the tool. They have an eye, and an exquisite eye, I would say, for design and for user experience that is guaranteed. Now, what's going to happen? I tested it out. I was a beta tester. What's going to happen? I don't think that this is even close to killing PowerPoint or replacing the people that use PowerPoint in any shape or form. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is the tool that, like, I don't believe that their audience is the PowerPoint audience in first place. I would say that they are aiming at small companies, startups, entrepreneurs, on, where that type of tool, I would say, is quite nice. Like, it's very decent.
So you like it, but it's obviously its own ecosystem. It's all web-based, I'm guessing.
Completely web-based. They have an app, right? But their whole experience is online.
I'll take a look at it.
Take a look.
I should have professionally. I should take a look at it. But
So what do you think about PowerPoint Online? PowerPoint, Microsoft are doing a lot of a big push. A lot of people don't know that they have the PowerPoint Online. What do you think about it?
I don't really use it. I'm in front of my computer all day long. It's not as full featured. Plus, why send things to the cloud? I'm not a OneDrive user. I'm a Dropbox person.
Okay.
Which I know in theory you're supposed to be able to connect, but I've never been able to.
Okay. Don't even ask.
Properly. That's not worth it. But I mean, it's a good way. I'm really glad they're pushing it, and it will be useful some days. The other thing is PowerPoint Online is primarily for collaboration, right? I mean, I mean, not only, but that's the main reason, to compete with Google Slides, which is only online. And that's important. That's really important, because that's where Microsoft has really dropped the ball, the past number of years in collaboration, and they're trying to fix it. They're trying to pick the ball back up. So they have to. So I generally don't collaborate with people just on a daily basis. I mean, I have designers that I work with, but I let them work and they send it to me. So it's always important, whoever has the master. So I don't want to, and I'm comfortable on my desktop. I don't want it online. But yes, it's there. I think it's important. That's all I have to say about it.
We were talking with
I'm
Tom.
not an expert at PowerPoint. I will say some people don't realize that they're using PowerPoint Online if they use Teams.
Really?
Because if you, if you can share your desktop, but you can also I forget, upload. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Upload a presentation. And if you upload a presentation, and we actually recommend this because if you have lots of animations or anything, it's going to run better. When you upload it, it goes to the cloud, and it is basically using PowerPoint online to play it.
Yeah.
But here you're taking out one of the links in the chain. It's already in the cloud, going down to all your people, so things run a little smoother.
Yeah.
Yes, you lose one or two things here or there, but
we had Tom a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Tom was like, I asked him also, I think for the PowerPoint online, or as part of the discussion, something happened. He was like, the only button that I use in the PowerPoint online is open in desktop app. I was like, okay, yeah. By the way, if I inspect my own behavior, I would say that I also use it this way. Like the fact that the fonts are missing most of the times is just such a pain. Otherwise, yeah.
And another issue that I run into is Microsoft's account management
it's awful.
is a disaster because I have multiple Microsoft accounts and logins, but I don't understand why I do or how I do. I mean, I pay every year my 365 account. And then I have, I guess, another account as an MVP, but whatever it is, it's always confusing. And I've had issues with online trying to open something, and it's like, you're not signed in. I'm like, yes, I am. Like, or where's that file that I saved? It's like, it's under a different tenant or account or this. It's like, it's a problem.
Yeah. And it is the same problem when you try to join in different teams in Microsoft Teams. Organizations, meaning, I mean, like, why? Anyway,
I mean, to this day, when you sign in, like for your Microsoft account, it says, oh, do you want to sign in at work or at home? And I always in my head, I'm like, well, this is my business. But I mean, Nolan Haims Creative, I'm going to sign in at work. No. That's not it. I have to sign in at home as an individual user, even though it's for business. And so
Yeah. Anyhow, okay. Nolan, one last advice.
Yes.
And
for me? For what advice do you have for me?
No,
I thought you were going to give me advice. I thought.
No. In this case, you are giving the advices.
Okay.
You have seen a lot of things in the presentation industry, continue to see a lot of presentations. You work with a lot of people from everywhere, right? So if you have to say, hey, this is the top mistake that I see in regards to presentations, be that the story part, be that the design or the delivery, is there something that it's just screaming at you that people are doing most often? Like people are mistaken very often.
People are mistaken.
Like doing wrong.
You know what? I'll say that I'll flip it around a little bit. Because I was just talking to my client, the astrophysicist, the other day.
Yes.
We were having we'd created a template and presentation for her, and I was taking her through it, and she's not a designer. So I'm, showing her how it works and how I've set things up and how to do it. And, you can still feel like, she keeps saying, well, it's never going to look as good as when you do it, blah, blah. And I said at the end, I said, we created a grid for you. We created guides. I think it was like I forget what the grid was, but I said, here's how you turn on the grid. The guidelines, that's what it's called in PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
And other programs have it as well. I said, if you do nothing, if you only do one thing to make your slides better, align things to each other and to the grid. That's it. You have big margins, align things to the margin, align things to the grid. If you have two text boxes, align them to each other, align them to the picture, align. That will get you 75% there, right?
Yeah.
If you do nothing else but align things and distribute them on your slides, you're going to be better than 99% of other people presenting. So that's that I would say. And so use your alignment tools, use your distribution tools, but turn on the guides and just, because it'll jump to, the guidelines. That is what a designer does. So if you're like, I'm not a designer, here's how to be a designer. Align.
Align.
All right.
Align it. Yeah. Pixel perfect eye for everything.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect, but visually just align. That's it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't turn on guidelines, just visually. Does it look kind of the same? Yeah.
Yeah, that is a check. Yeah. Okay, Nolan. So we're going to link your website, the goodies for sure. You mentioned them. We need to link the podcast, right? The guild. for sure. Are we missing? And the plugins.
The plugins. Yep. Brightslide. I'll send you a link for Talk Time. So everybody can have it there, because it's I just love this. This is like, it's my tool.
I haven't tested it by myself, so I really want to
PC only. But
well, I love both platforms. I wouldn't say that I love Mac or PC. Both of them work for me. So currently, it's just a moment in time when for some reason, I'm on a Surface. Anyway, let's stop there.
I got a Surface laptop next to me that I got to use occasionally.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll link all of this up as part of the episode. We're going to share it all across, send it to you. Also, thanks again for being a part of this. And we are definitely looking forward to both the workshop, that's the masterclass that's coming up first, and in 15th of April. 15th of April. Mess up the dates. And then the session on building inclusive presentations.
Yep.
Can't wait for that one.
I'm looking forward to it, and hope I'll see a lot of you listeners there.
Yep. Okay. And for everybody else who still doesn't know about Present to Succeed, it's just very simple. This is the conference that we are organizing, presenttosucceed.com. Take a look at it. We are bringing the best of the best people to kind of teach you everything related to presentations, and it's still on an affordable price, so that everyone who is dealing with presentations can join us. So presenttosucceed.com, and if you want to know more about 356 Labs and not 365 Labs, which many people say, go to 356labs.com and check it out there. Thanks, Nolan, again, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.